Hi, Darren.
Hey, Jesse. How's it going?
Going good, man. Going good. Thank you for taking the time. I really appreciate that. Um,
Of course.
I saw earlier today Hannah Fierman is promoting St. Agatha as the perfect film to go see on Valentine's Day. I was curious I was curious as to what you thought about that, and then also I saw St. Agatha last night, but would you consider it the 50 Shades of this year?
If you look on my Facebook page, I think that I summed it up perfectly when I said it's my first go at making a family film. No, it's it's funny. It's kind of an amalgamation of a Saw film and something like Mother's Day, which I did. It's got elements of horror in it, but it's much more of a thriller, much more of a let's say a drama, but it's a kind of a different hybrid of film that I've made before. It's not as visceral and intense as something like Saw, but I think it's got such insanely great performances from people like Carolyn Hennessy as Mother Superior, and the all-female cast that we have in this thing are great. So I'm excited for people to give it a watch. And yes, watch it on Valentine's Day with your loved one. I think it's a great thing. Where else can you watch someone get strangled with an umbilical cord on Valentine's Day, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, you kind of mentioned your catalog there a little bit. It seems, from the outsider's perspective, you enjoy taking on challenges in different types of films. You mentioned the hybridness of St. Agatha. Is that what attracted you to the film or to this project, like when you were looking over the script or, deciding to take it on?
You know what? I always choose movies for different reasons. I think in this, I was just coming off an immersive theater production called The Tension Experience, and I wanted to do something different than I'd done before, but I wanted to work with my friends. That's honestly what it was. I'm a huge person on wanting to work with the same group of people over and over. I like working with people I like. And in the case of St. Agatha, I had the opportunity to bring a lot of the cast of The Tension Experience with me. I had the ability to work with Joseph White, who's the cinematographer that's done, I think, 8 movies with me. So I also got the chance to build a new iconic villain, and I think that that always excites me about films. Like when I look at the Saw films or Mother's Day, I look at the villain as being this driving force. And when I read the script, reading Mother Superior, I was like, I can do something really, really fucking great with this.
Yeah.
And so kind of all of those things combined made me want to do the film.
And kind of going off that, how far away did you get from your initial vision? Like, did it hold up through the filmmaking process, or how do you feel about the final product ultimately?
I mean, a movie is always it goes through many, many different versions. The movie that you have in your head, the movie that's written, the movie that's shot, and then eventually the movie that's edited. Obviously, this movie changed throughout the entire time of it. From, I guess, what was originally on the page to what we shot to what we eventually edited. You always look at a movie and you think of the million things you wish you would have done. I wish I would have done this. I wish I would have done that. So yeah, there's a lot of I wishes in there. But that said, I'm really proud of the work that we did, and specifically there's so many great things I look at this movie and realize, okay, first off, Carolyn Hennessy, who plays Mother Superior, is such a badass and so fantastic that I think that she, not only does she devour the scenery, I want to keep watching her. She's the type of actress that I want to keep seeing. I thought that she did such an incredible job at the performance. I think Joseph White's cinematography is just brilliant, as always. Joe shot Repo for me in 11/11 and Mother's Day and The Barons. Mm-hmm. So he's just fantastic. Sabrina Kern is a crazy unique story. I met Sabrina doing the Tension Experience, which is that immersive theater thing, and she had just moved to Los Angeles from Switzerland. So she's Swiss German, and being able to cast her in her first movie ever. I think that she just talk about as a first movie to be thrown in and trial by fire. She's literally has to go through every single emotion and beat up and bruised. So it was such a great experience making the film that I look back on it and I'm very happy. But again, there's never been a movie that I've made that I haven't looked at and said, "Fuck, I wish I would have done X, Y, or Z."
Yeah. I mean, all of that is amazing, considering I think I read somewhere that you had under 20 days to do this, to shoot this.
Yeah, 17. Yeah.
Yeah, that's wild, man. Especially considering what I sat down and watched last night. So, congratulations for that.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
The appearance of the house played a huge role for me, and it really sold the atmosphere. Everything seemed calculated, from the wallpaper to the creaky floors. How much pre-production went into the film?
Well, this was one of the quickest turnarounds of a movie I've ever done. I was hired, I want to say the beginning of December, and we were shooting it 2 months later.
Oh my God!
So the house was a huge issue. I saw that house and I loved it. And here's, I'm gonna, again, spoiler alert. If you haven't seen the movie, stop reading and go watch the movie and then come back. The house had to play in two different ways. Way number one was you had to buy it as a convent. Way number two was it's not a convent at all. These are a bunch of con women doing it. And so, in the third act, St. Agatha uncovers that it's not even a real convent, that it's basically literally con women selling babies. And so it also had to play as not a convent once you kind of get the reveal. So we had to find a place that at the very beginning you could say, okay, this is whatever.
Yeah.
We found huge convents, but they were too big. You couldn't buy, and the other thing is believability. You had to buy the fact that this could be going on and people wouldn't know. So we had to find a small enough locale, surrounded by kind of woods that had that kind of look to it. So that it posed a massive problem. Molly Coffey, who was the production designer, did a great job finding this location. But what's crazy is the house was literally crumbling around us, and I mean literally crumbling around us. If you go back and watch the movie and you look at the walls, like every time they walk up and down the stairs, you can actually see cracks that were not there at minute 10. And by minute 30, there's so much bigger cracks because the weight of us walking up and down the stairs, bringing dollies up there, it was insane. The house was really, really, really old. And so all that wallpaper and stuff were already all there. There was some rims that we painted, but all of that was all there. We just lucked out because the house itself needed to be a character, as did, I'm a huge proponent on music being a character. And I think Mark Seyfried, who did the score on this, just fucking killed it. Like, one of my favorite scores ever is The Omen. And I just love how it became a character in the movie if you watch The Omen. And I think that Mark did the same thing as it relates to music in this, making the music a character.
Yeah, I really enjoyed the music too. It kind of seemed like there was this overarching, lullaby kind of following you along, as the characters kind of get discovered. It was, the music kind of changed as well. So I really enjoyed that too. I want to jump away from St. Agatha a little bit and kind of discuss your immersive experiences for a second. For those that may not know or be aware, can you kind of give them a brief, I know that's difficult, but can you kind of give them the 101 on exactly what it is, what goes into immersive entertainment? Yeah,
so immersive it's my passion. I mean, I don't want to say movies are not my passion anymore, but it is such it's a drug, and I'm addicted to it. So basically, immersive theater, the best way that I can describe it is the audience controls every aspect and everything that happens to them. Whereas a movie is very passive. You sit down, you open up your iTunes, and you pick a movie and you sit down and watch it. Immersive theater, you have to do everything. You have to interact with the actors. You have to interact with the environment. You control everything, and you cannot be passive in immersive theater. So I run something called Attention Experience. In Attention Experience, the best way to describe it, if you've ever seen Michael Douglas's The Game, it's Michael Douglas's The Game meets Westworld. That's what it is. We basically have what's called an ARG, which is an alternate reality game, which allows you to interact with the narrative through the real world. So phone calls, hacking emails, hacking websites, showing up to alleyways and finding USB drives, going to CD bars and interacting with crazy characters at the bars. The narrative takes place in the real world, and then it culminates into a warehouse. Like Intention, for example, was a 50,000 square foot warehouse with 60 actors that you go to, and basically you can pretty much do what you want within reason. No two experiences are the same. Your actions dictate what happens to you. So you go with 5 friends, you're having 5 completely different experiences. Now, this is not a haunted house, and it's not a play. It's an amalgamation of a video game, Westworld. It's almost undefinable. But once you start going to them, there's such a rush of adrenaline because you find yourself. Imagine this. So imagine seeing St. Agatha and being in the center of the convent, getting to smell the breath of Mother Superior, feeling the touch of St. Agatha, smelling the vomit when someone throws up. That's what immersive theater is. You are in the center of the environment, and you yourself are your own guide through the environment.
Excellent, man. That was perfect. I've heard you kind of describe it on like the movie Crypt and things like that. So it's always fascinated me. And I guess the next step, where does it go? Where does it go from here? So like, where would immersive entertainment? How can we bring that to the larger audiences, or how do we get more people involved?
So first off, we just partnered this last year with the Russo brothers. The Russo brothers directed a little independent film called The Avengers. They have another one coming out this year, the finale of The Avengers. Hopefully they will help bring us to a new audience and a larger audience. Here's the thing: there's still it's still so new in the world of immersive theater. It's like the Wild West. People still don't really understand what it is. A lot of people misconstrue what we do as a haunted house, and it's absolutely not. I recommend following. There's a couple of Facebook pages. One's called Everything Immersive, and it's got shows. It shows you every show from ones in LA to New York to the Midwest, and in jumping in. And I recommend. It could be a scary thing when you first hear about it. Like, what, they touch you, they make you drink things, they put you in rooms alone with people. It is so liberating doing these things, because again, it is a story being told, just like a movie, just like any movie you've seen. But you are the central character, and you have to be the one to unlock the story. So it's like an escape room, but a million times more engaging and interactive. When you go to an escape room, you have 60 minutes to get out of the room, and you're solving riddles. Imagine you go into a warehouse and you have 3.5 hours to talk to 60-some people, and we just closed an experience called Theater Macabre. And the idea behind Theater Macabre was you went into this theater, and there were 12 separate storylines that you could pick. And you got on them by interacting with the actors. And so you might end up being a spy or a murderer or a cop or a drug dealer. And your entire journey, your 2-hour journey, was dictated by your own actions. And so when you left Theater Macabre at the end of the night, everyone that you were with has a completely different encounter of what happened to them. And not just one scene, the entire evening was all different. So to me, it's the future of what entertainment will eventually be, which is more personalized to you, the actual content consumer.
Excellent. Thank you so much for that. Before we go, I need to mention the night Billy raised hell. I think it's appropriate because Clint Sears worked on this one too. I was especially I saw that like a real early screening of that, and right after I saw it, for some reason I knew you were connected to the film already, but then after I watched that little piece, I knew that was you. I guess the tone was similar to other stuff you had done before, and I really just I was curious as to like what was your initial reaction when you read over the script. I know you have humor in your past, but what was that like for you?
Well, I mean, first off, Clint Sears knows me better than anyone in the world. I've known this guy since middle school. And we used to he was the first guy that I was making short films with way back in the day. So I think that Clint knew my style and tone. And I very much wanted to do something that was more comedic in tone, but I wanted to do something serious. And I think that some of my best stuff is more comedic. Repo, the Genetic Opera, for example. So, we wanted to do something that was more comedic. And we got Barry Bostwick. When you have Barry Bostwick, it writes itself. I mean, that guy is a goddamn national treasure. And And so Clint nailed it. I mean, he absolutely nailed the tone, and just like he did in St. Agatha, he came in and rewrote St. Agatha for me, and completely nailed the tone on that as well.
Excellent, man. Is there any talks of rejoining the October Society for another like sequel or anything?
There's talk about it. I think the initial idea was for us to continue to do these things. And at one point, they talked about doing a haunted house together. But at that same time, that's exactly what I'm doing right now with the Tension Experience, but not being a haunted house. But yeah, I think, listen, we're all still very much in touch. We're all still very much friends. So it's just finding that right project.
Perfect. All right, man. Well, that's really all I have for you. I really enjoyed the film, and I look forward to everything else you have coming down the pipe.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it, man. Have a great week.
You too, buddy. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.